Hello everyone, my name is Danish Buns, and welcome to this first ever episode of Game Question Forum. Now, just a quick overview of what this show is going to be about. I am basically going to be answering your viewer-based questions with my own personal opinions and feedback. Just a quick note, this show won't be solely dedicated to Guild Wars 2, but as of right now, the only questions I have are from Guild Wars 2, so those will be the questions that will be answered during this video. The first question I received was from a guy named Tubular in response to my noob review video, which you guys can check out on the screen right now, stating that Guild Wars 2 was an improvement on the original Guild Wars 1. Now, Tubular has to say, Guild Wars 1 had errors. I thought it was a perfect game and the best game I ever played. I love the PvP in it. Would you say that someone who thought Guild Wars 1 was perfect will like Guild Wars 2? Now I'm going to start my two-part response by first saying that Guild Wars 1 was not perfect, and let's be honest, neither is Guild Wars 2. You can love a game all you want, but you still have to acknowledge that there are flaws within the game. One of the flaws I'd like to note in Guild Wars 1, which ArenaNet agrees with me, was jumping. Come on, all games should have jumping. It's annoying as hell when you're running and there is about 2 centimeter gap between you and the floor next to you and you can't get onto it. It is really frustrating. ArenaNet also pointed out that they didn't really like the instancing and the fact that there were way too many skill combinations, which made balancing incredibly difficult. Now that doesn't make Guild Wars 1 not a great game. Guild Wars 1 was amazing, and in fact I logged well over 1,500 hours in the game. So guys, let's make sure that we draw that line in between what a perfect game is and what an awesome game is. No game can achieve perfection, because to achieve perfection would mean that every single gamer out there would enjoy it, and that frankly will never happen. And we have to remember that Guild Wars 2 will not be a perfect game. There are some of you out there who are trying to force your opinion on other gamers, telling them that this game is perfect in any way and every way, and this is simply not the case. Guild Wars 2 will have flaws. The game is not out yet, so we cannot determine what those flaws are, but I'm sure they will be pointed out extremely well when the game does come out. And that's not a fault of Guild Wars 2, and that's not a fault of ArenaNet. No game is perfect. You're aiming for as close as perfect as physically possible, but it's simply impossible to create a perfect game. So don't go in there expecting amazing perfection. Just go in there expecting to jizz your pants. Now, before I get too sidetracked, I'd really like to answer the second part to his question, which is, will people who liked Guild Wars 1 really like Guild Wars 2? Now, before I can answer this question, I'd like to define the gamer base into 3 sections. For Guild Wars 1, there were the PvEers, the mixed players, and the PvPers. Now, my personal opinion is that the PvE and the mixed players will really enjoy the game. I was personally friends with some of the PvE players of the game who really enjoyed it, and they're saying that they're really looking forward to the lore and all the expansive dynamic events and other fun stuff that is going to be provided in Guild Wars 2. I know that I personally, as a mixed gamer who enjoyed both PvP and PvE, am really excited to play through the personal storyline as well as kick some butt in structured PvP, or at least have it handed to me on a nice platter. Now the real question comes from, will the PvP-based players enjoy the game? Now I say this because PvP was heavily based on what kind of build you were running, and a lot of the players of PvP really enjoyed spending a lot of time sifting through all the skills trying to make the optimal PvP build. However, we have to remember that the skill development in Guild Wars 2 is nowhere near the same level as Guild Wars 1, and I just have a feeling that the PvPers who are so used to access to thousands upon thousands of skills will not enjoy the fact that 5 skills are automatically locked to a couple of weapons, and you have about 20 optional utility skills that you can choose from. So I do get the feeling that some of these players will not feel as great playing this game as they did in Guild Wars 1, especially if they're expecting the exact same thing. But that is one thing we do have to remember. Guild Wars 2 is nothing like Guild Wars 1, and ArenaNet has made it plain that it's not going to be anything like Guild Wars 1. If they really wanted to just rehash what they originally did in all the expansions of Guild Wars 1 and the original, they just would have continued with the Guild Wars Utopia expansion. However, ArenaNet really wanted to break the mold that MMOs have currently been sitting in for quite a while and probably catching an infection from. This meant that ArenaNet would have to fix some of the flaws that they felt existed in the original Guild Wars, and that meant reducing the complexity of their overall skill system. Personally, I don't think this is a bad thing, because I'd rather have someone with a mediocre build and really, really good skill defeat me than someone with a really good build and horrible skill run my show. So hopefully those PvPers who really did not seem to enjoy the fact that the complexity has been removed from the game will really look into the fact that now this game has moved towards skill-based PvP, and that is really something that everyone should be happy about because it's way more enjoyable. Alrighty, the next question comes in from an anonymous viewer who has to say, do you think dynamic events are revolutionary? I like him. Straight and to the point. Excellent. Alright, before I get into answering the question, I just want to talk about what dynamic events and hard events are, because there is some confusion among the community. Now, hard events are essentially the replacement for the questing system in standard games, where essentially you talk to an NPC and complete whatever their mission was. The only difference is that you no longer have to talk to an NPC to get started. You simply walk into the area and get stuff done, which is something I really enjoy. However, dynamic events are a little bit different, as these follow a timeline. Now, the misconception is that dynamic events happen randomly, but they simply do not. They happen in their specific regions at their specific times. Now, sometimes they'll be triggered by a stopwatch that is running in the background, and others will be triggered simply by a chain event. So you will complete one event and another will happen. An example of this, which you can clearly see in my noobs review, is when I'm taking down the tower, and after I take down the tower, a new event immediately starts up. This is pretty cool. Now, the question that has been asked is, do I find this dynamic event questing system revolutionary? And I have to say yes, for a couple reasons. One of them being that companies, especially game companies that are producing MMOs, have really wanted to give you some form of impact on the world. Now, we know that gamers love having impact on the world. We can look back as far as Wasteland. For those of you who follow Kickstarter, Wasteland had a dynamic system where when you would affect an area and leave, as soon as you came back, the area would continue to be affected the way you had originally left it. There was no resetting or anything like that. This was a persistent world where you actually had an effect on the timeline. That's pretty cool. Now, the problem with implementing this in an MMO is the fact that you are gaining thousands upon thousands of inputs from different players, and it's really difficult to calculate the output of the environment from those players. What ArenaNet has done has really simplified the ability to capture all these inputs from all the different players and really give the feeling that you're actually having an effect on the environment, which is something really cool. The other thing they looked into was for the ability for players to break the game or for the game to break itself. One of the really prevalent things in Rift was the fact that if you tried to solo anything, you would get dominated. What Guild Wars did to counter that was really amazing. They actually scaled all their content. So if you are going in solo, your content will be scaled to a solo level, and if you go in with a group, the content will be scaled to a group level, which allows for challenging content all across the board. That's something that really needs to be implemented in all types of MMOs using dynamic event systems. What ArenaNet also did very well was add complexity to the dynamic events. There's a little bit of lore behind every event, which was something I found very interesting and very enjoyable. These systems are replacing our questing, so I'd really like for there to be depth behind them so that I can actually thoroughly enjoy them. Now, I believe these dynamic events to be really revolutionary for two reasons that I've stated before. Of course, the one being that everyone loves to have impact, and the ability to have an impact on an MMO region is something that's relatively unheard of. And the other is that ArenaNet has really gone through the paces to make sure that these will not be broken in any way. And of course, though we can't judge it now, I really have a feeling that these will do half decently when the game releases. However, we should note that even if ArenaNet doesn't implement these properly and the game doesn't do as well in terms of dynamic events, there will be other companies looking towards it because they know that the fan base really enjoy the ability to impact the world around them. So even if this system becomes defunct, we will have other companies working towards developing an MMO where we can actually have impact. So, in a way, ArenaNet has already changed the industry for years to come, and congrats to them. They really have done a great job. You can see all the companies now vigorously trying to emulate them. Wow. but I'm not going to point any of those out. Alright guys, thanks for watching. This has been the first ever episode of Game Question and, oh, what's the other one? Forum. If you guys have any better title suggestions, please provide them. I'm going to be looking into new title names this week, but I'm going to need a little bit of time, so hopefully I can find it. If you guys have any ideas, just post it. I don't really care. Also, feel free to continue the discussion in the comment section below. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And provide any questions you want to see in the next video. I will be looking through every single question, and any questions that I feel can be answered in a small text sample, I definitely will. Anything that is a little more complex, I will definitely put in the next video. Also, please feel free to leave any criticisms. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Swearing at me or downvoting or disliking this video will not really change my mind as to what I'm going to be doing, because I think I'm a half decent person at this. But I would love to hear why you think I need improvement, because I really would love to improve. And my voice just cracked a little bit. I hope you can't hear that. I thought I'm a grown man, but apparently I'm not. Brilliant. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter at Danish Buns, I post some hilarious stuff on there if you guys want to check that out. Also, feel free to send me any emails of your concerns, criticisms, or weird pictures that you found on the internet that you feel need to be shared with a guy named Danish Buns. Actually, no, I regret saying that. Please don't do that. You can reach me with legitimate information at camelsilo@gmail.com. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.